In the final months of 2025, one industry quietly locked down 40% of a critical global resource. They bought it up so fast and in such high volumes that the market barely registered the squeeze until the supply was already gone. That resource is computer memory, random access memory, or RAM. The first sign of the deficit didn't appear in a corporate press release. It showed up as empty space on the shelves of your local electronics store. The costs trickle down quickly. A standard entry-level laptop now costs double what it did a year ago. Major hardware manufacturers have indefinitely delayed their next generation of gaming consoles. The capital draining the consumer market is coming from artificial intelligence. Trillions of investment dollars are being converted into physical infrastructure. To understand the scale of these operations, you have to look at the massive data centers being constructed across the desert. Your home computer uses RAM to handle short-term tasks, like opening a web browser or loading a game. An AI data center requires continuous high-bandwidth memory to process billions of calculations simultaneously, without interruption for weeks on end. The tech giants are currently engaged in an arms race. To build the infrastructure for artificial intelligence, they need memory, so they are buying every available module they can find, completely starving the consumer market in the process. Training a large language model takes time. If a single memory module fails during that process, it can crash the entire training run. A minor hardware glitch instantly wastes millions of dollars in electricity and processing time. 93% of all memory chips are manufactured by just 3 companies: Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. Watch what happens when Micron changes strategy. In late 2025, they completely abandoned the consumer market for enterprise AI, instantly wiping massive global supply off the board. American tech executives immediately flew out of California and went to South Korea to secure whatever inventory remained. They lived in hotels for weeks, begging for allocation, earning the industry nickname "drum beggars." Some of the wealthiest companies in the world returned empty-handed. Google executives failed to secure the necessary memory for their custom internal chips. Shortly after those meetings concluded, the personnel responsible for the negotiations were reportedly fired. Nvidia took a more direct approach. CEO Jensen Huang bypassed the standard procurement channels. He flew to Seoul and personally hosted dinners with Samsung leadership, leveraging his direct relationship to lock in Nvidia's hardware supply before his competitors could. The traditional hierarchy of the tech industry is reversed. Trillion-dollar software giants are no longer dictating the terms. 3 memory manufacturers now hold complete authority over who gets to participate in the AI economy and who gets left behind. The memory secured by Nvidia and Microsoft has to come from somewhere. By monopolizing the production lines, enterprise buyers force the everyday consumer to absorb the massive inflation in component costs. This bar graph illustrates the exact toll on consumer hardware. Historically, the memory inside an iPhone cost Apple about $25. Today, they are paying a 230% premium, pushing that exact same component cost to $70 per phone. To maintain profit margins without raising retail prices, laptop manufacturers are severely downgrading their base models. Premium machines are now shipping with a meager 8 gigabytes of RAM, reverting to specifications from a decade ago. The PC gaming hardware market is taking a direct hit. Nvidia has effectively paused the production of new consumer graphics cards to allocate those manufacturing resources toward enterprise AI. As a result, their next flagship consumer card is rumored to retail for $5,000. The CEO of Phison, a major memory controller manufacturer, issued a blunt forecast. He calculates that the current pricing environment is unsustainable, predicting that multiple consumer electronics companies will go bankrupt by the end of 2026. The obvious economic response to high demand is to increase supply, but you cannot simply construct a new semiconductor fabrication plant overnight. These sterile, highly automated facilities cost billions of dollars to build and require at least 2 years to become operational. Even if they could build them faster, the memory manufacturers refuse to do so. In the 2010s, they overbuilt factories to meet the smartphone boom. When demand naturally cooled, the market flooded with excess inventory, and prices completely collapsed. They are choosing to keep supply dangerously tight to protect themselves from another crash. This brings us to the macroeconomic risk looming over the entire tech sector. The aggressive hoarding of memory relies on a single assumption, that the current demand for artificial intelligence is a permanent fixture of the economy, rather than a speculative bubble. That assumption is actively being questioned by the people building the technology. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has publicly noted that external investors are treating the space with wild, unchecked enthusiasm that outpaces the actual technological returns. That enthusiasm attracts amateur capital. Inexperienced investors are treating complex data centers like standard commercial real estate. They are funding massive warehouses and selling processing capacity, but the buildings themselves are entirely empty. These developers promise to have server farms operational in months, completely ignorant of the physical constraints. They fail to secure industrial water rights required to cool the processors, and they ignore the fact that heavy-duty backup generators currently have a 90-month waitlist. But the hardware manufacturers have already collected their money. The memory chips designated for these hollow projects are sold. The buyers are locked into inflexible, long-term contracts negotiated at the absolute peak of the market. There is only one external pressure point that could eventually lower prices. A Chinese manufacturer named CXMT has recently figured out how to produce modern DDR5 memory. But industry analysts confirm they are still several years away from achieving the production volume necessary to stabilize the global market. If the enterprise demand drops before those servers go online, the fallout will be severe. The hoarded memory sitting in empty warehouses will rapidly depreciate. By the time the facilities are actually built, those specific premium-price chips will be technologically obsolete before they are ever taken out of the packaging. The rapid development of artificial intelligence has effectively paralyzed the rest of the computing world. The industry has sacrificed the global consumer hardware supply for a highly speculative future, leaving us to wonder if this is the necessary cost of progress or a catastrophic financial miscalculation.